Alright, what's going on, guys? It is your boy TKD123 here, back in here on PlayStation Source. And if you guys missed Thursday's State of Play that was dedicated to all of Ghost of Tsushima, it was an absolutely great showcase I felt for the game. It really shows a lot of cool things, a lot of cool aspects of the game itself. And if you still happen to miss that State of Play, you can of course check back for it on the channel where me and Jack reacted to it as well, live streamed, so you can check out that VOD on the channel for State of Play Ghost of Tsushima. But I did do my due diligence and did do a lot of research for you guys and compiled 75 facts about Ghost of Tsushima that I broke down on this 18-minute gameplay demo. So without further ado, let's go into these facts. And before we get into it, I was looking through my analytics on the channel and saw that like 66% of you guys actually watch these videos but aren't subscribed. What's up with that? Hit up with a subscription and keep yourself filled up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation via PlayStation Source. Now, going off here, if you all watched the State of Play, they did break up the whole State of Play into different sections. They went through exploration, then they went through combat if you are a samurai, and then combat if you are a ghost, as well as the cosmetics of Jin, and then lastly the photo mode, as well as different ways that you will be able to play this game given the setting and era of the game. And so we're going to be, kind of just dissecting these part by part in the exact order of the State of Play. So at the top, I'll say here that exploring the world of Ghost of Tsushima seems to be a ton of fun and immersive. Number one, the game has no waypoints and it has a very minimal HUD, and the game really wants to go for a type of feel that seems more cinematic than a traditional gameplay type of game focused on like a very fancy HUD. They seem to be going for minimalism to up the graphics and really up the overall ambiance of the game. I think it's a great direction. Number two, you can mark points of interest on your map, but also number three, you can initiate the guiding wind, which is initiated by right on the D-pad that will guide you to the point you marked on the map via the winds that you see in game. On the map, hovering over enemy camps tells you the rewards you'll receive by liberating said camp. Iron was an example of a reward as well as an increase in your legend progression. It looks like according to the map screen, you start off as the wandering samurai, and over the course of the game, you increase that legend meter until you are the legend of the ghost. A little bit more on the guiding wind, it can be called in at any time, so in case you get lost in the game, you can just hit that button and you'll be all good, again right on the D-pad. As you travel to a new area in the world, the name of its location will appear in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, which is of course a very useful addition if you want to look up something very specific in the game, or vice versa. If you want to be told something very specific in a certain location, they can give you that location. Within the game's world, nature calls and speaks to you in Ghost of Tsushima to show you different things in the world. You can call your horse by hitting left on D-pad, a very much addition that sounds a little bit like the mounting system with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where you can do the same thing. While riding the horse, resources will occasionally highlight and are able to be picked up without getting off the horse. Again, a very neat addition, a very nice quality of life things that I love to see in this game. Animals seem to have a threat level meter as well. Smoke on the horizon will lead you to campfires, as well as smoke stacks will lead to people that are in need of help. Birds will lead you towards important decisions and hidden locations, while foxes will appear and lead you to hidden shrines throughout the island. Now, a little bit more on these shrines here. When at a hidden shrine, they are later named the Inari shrines. I think I pronounced it wrong, I'm sorry, but the Inari shrines that are later on in the demo, which we'll talk about later on. But within the gameplay, the player honored the statue and it gave him a little bit of progression to achieve a minor charm slot, which there will be definitely more info on that later on in the video. Of course, being an open world, there are plenty of abandoned buildings that can have rare resources for the taking, but once you visit a location, fast travel is enabled and becomes available within that location. And yes, people, it is true, it is confirmed, you can indeed pet the fox in Ghost of Tsushima. Let's get it, game of the year contender, let's go. Now, while not confirmed, just from my gamer perspective, from my point of view, there are going to be shimmy loading screens in the game. Some people hate them, some people don't mind them. I just spotted one of those sections and it seems like that may be a potential loading screen, so that may be how they're going to format loading the world in different locations. The game has many shrines, parkour locations, hidden destinations, scenic views, and attractions to pay respect and honor to throughout Ghost of Tsushima. As well as within the gameplay, Jin seems to be playing the similar instrument that was shown at the E3 2018 showcase, where we got first glimpse at gameplay from Ghost of Tsushima. I looked it up, I was trying to figure out which exact name to call this instrument. I saw Cornelius Boots, I saw it be called an end-blown flute, who knows what exactly it's called, but that same instrument that was at E3 2018 with that dude playing it before they showed gameplay, Jin can seemingly play it in game, and who knows if this is like a scripted event or if it's something that the player can control. We never got that intel, but really cool to see that that is featured within the game. So of course, laid out even before this whole blowout of state of play, Jin can fight as either a samurai or as the ghost. Fighting in the style as a samurai is the honorable way to fight in the game. Awareness meters are in the game, allowing you to know when the enemy can see you and how long until they initiate an attack and call for backup. Jin can also have this really cool feature where he can challenge enemies in a lethal standoff. In a lethal standoff, the aspect ratio of the screen decreases to give it a cinematic and intense feeling. And the combat in lethal standoff seems to require patience and good timing to be successful. Honestly, these look really fun to do. Now granted, I haven't had hands on the game, but they just look fun and look really intense from just the eyes perspective. Like, they're essentially like glorified 1v1s. Let's go, I'm down for this. But when you enter the enemy camp after doing that lethal standoff, if you choose to do so, you are given 2 bonus objectives on top of a main objective when you're playing as a samurai. One of them can be kill 3 enemies with the half bow, for example, and another one later on we see can be kill the war camp general as well. However, even though there is no HUD in the game when you're just playing it in the wild and like when you're out on the wilderness and stuff like that, in combat there is a traditional HUD that appears, offering the player prompts to change weapon types. With the D-pad, up was registered to the half bow, but potentially could be mapped to another D-pad button on the player's discretion. With the half bow and potentially other bows in the game, you can use the face buttons to change the arrow types. For example, fire arrows were mapped to the triangle in the say a play gameplay, but could potentially be mappable to different buttons. However, in the bottom middle of the screen when he was holding the bow, the player was also prompted to have a potential sniper mode while using the bow by pressing R3. However, this could be an ability that slows down the game, allowing you to nail a headshot with a cooldown and limited time. There's not really that much details because they didn't utilize it seemingly in the gameplay. Jin can block incoming arrows with his katana, which looks dope every time he did it in the gameplay. Parrying is in the game, of course, allowing you to provide yourself with an opening to land an attack. Likely will be reliant on timing. Landing multiple attacks without parrying seems to bring down this posture meter that was in the game as well, causing the enemy to eventually be staggered when it's fully depleted. A bright light appeared at the end of an enemy's weapon that was about to charge at Jin. Not sure if that appeared before every attack or only because he was only using a lawn spear. I tried to look for it throughout the rest of the gameplay, didn't really find it, only saw it with this spear. I could be wrong. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think that's like an indicator of an incoming attack across the board? Let me know your thoughts. When executing a block, you can change your stance by using the face button prompts. In the gameplay demo, he chose the water stance. Each stance will be more effective damage-wise to certain enemies, allowing you to be more efficient and providing a deeper layer to the act of blocking an attack as opposed to other games. And so I believe this stance was also, I've been hearing, was in Neo 2, this like stance system where while you're blocking, you can change stances dependent on the enemy type that you're facing. I think that was in Neo. Honestly, can't confirm, never played the game, but I've been hearing that a different system that is pretty similar to the stance system here in Ghost of Tsushima is similar to the one in Neo. If you break an enemy's posture meter and stop engaging them with attacks, their meter will refill. Getting kills in the game will gradually fill these yellow orbs in the lower left hand corner of the HUD. The first 3 that were filled prompted Jin to press L1 and R1 together, so it may be a meter to execute a massive and powerful attack like an ultimate move seen in other games. However, I can't be sure since it seemed to not have been used within the gameplay, and I really wish it was because I was getting a lot of questions about this on Twitter and different stuff like that. I wasn't really sure what those orbs were for, but I did see that as he was getting kills, those orbs were eventually and gradually filling. So maybe there will be used for some special attacks that, you know, you can pull off in the game, but we really don't know. And this one, a lot of you probably already know, and is probably widely already, you know, just understood already about the game, but you can wipe the blood off of your blood with a specific button, as well as you can bow to your enemies after death. But we're not sure if the bowing to your enemies is a controlled player portion or just automatically done at the end of engagement with battle. We will have to see when the full game comes out. While the samurai is the honorable way to fight, you can also choose to fight in a dishonorable ghost style of combat, offering dangerous and sneaky tactics. When the gameplay switched over to the ghost version of Jin, the throw ability was mapped to the left D-pad while in combat, with the face buttons allowing you to pick what to throw, such as a wind chime for example, similar to the bow, and being able to pick what arrows to fire. So in that type of format, he was able to, like, quote unquote equip his hands, and he could equip what to throw via the face buttons in a very similar fashion to how you can equip the bow on the left D-pad and then pick with the face buttons what type of arrows to fire. A very similar, you know, type of way of picking what you're going to equip and then what that equipable item will be firing. Wind chimes will distract and lure enemies to it, allowing you to sneak up to them for the kill. When behind a distracted enemy, you can hit square to assassinate them, allowing for an instant kill. When equipped with a longbow, you can fire a heavy arrow, allowing for a brutal and seemingly one-hit kill on standard enemies. Another throwable that was featured in the gameplay was firecrackers, which allowed for more enemies to be thrown off and distracted. Aerial assassinations are in the game and are achieved by being above the enemy and pressing square, while a different prompt was also given to execute a chain assassination, which can be done by pressing triangle and is used to assassinate multiple enemies at once. However, later on in the gameplay, when he was in a similar type of form factor, being above two enemies, he was given the option to press square to slaughter an enemy, but that enemy was wearing super heavy armor and a lot of it, so that could be the main factor here, is that when a enemy is wearing a bunch of armor that seems to be a heavy type of armor and high grade armor, you probably won't be able to pull off a one-hit kill, and you might not be able to pull off an assassination at that. So slaughter might be your best bet, and maybe that slaughter takes off a big chunk of his health, but you cannot seemingly do an assassination. While in an enemy camp, clearing it could reap yourself rewards, but resources are also scattered across the enemy camp as well, like iron for example. These seem to eventually flash white, indicating they are able to be scavenged by the player. The smoke bomb proved useful for evading an attack or for throwing the enemy off guard, allowing yourself to land an attack. The kunai was also equipped and used in the gameplay by pressing left on the D-pad, which are throwable knives for ranged attacks. Over time, as you overpower the Mongol forces in a given camp, the enemies will begin to fear the ghosts, and that fear can be used to your advantage to give you an easy kill. Like for example, in the gameplay, there was someone that was on the ground, you know, just trying to get away from the ghosts, and the ghost was not having it, thus letting him get an easy kill on the enemy. There also seem to be contextual prompts against cliffs that are given to indicate Jin is able to jump down from the cliff by pressing R2. Not only that, he was also given an additional prompt to press R2 again to reach a higher point by using Jin's grappling hook. As the ghost, the objective was given to, quote, burn the black powder cache, which was not given by the samurai. This may be setting up that doing this is a dishonorable act and is an objective that is only given to the ghost. So maybe they have different objectives and different side things for those camps. For the samurai and the ghost, they may have different entirely things to do given their different mantras and different personalities, and of course they're two different ways of combat, one being honorable, the other being dishonorable. Arrows can be scavenged by dead enemies if your inventory isn't full, so if it is full, of course it won't give you the ability to pick up more, but of course you can pick up arrows off of dead enemies. And a bonus fact that is not on my primary list that I found on Twitter, this memorament seems to be in the game, indicating to these screenshots shots here, and that is dope to give just the whole game a very mature feeling, and to be able to, you know, cut off homies' limbs. That thing is going to be great, and I bet it feels satisfying. Now, one of the biggest things I had to applaud this game for, just looking at it, you know, from the gameplay and all the trailers, of course, not being able to play it yet, that we will have to wait for. It looks like this game has a very specific tone and style that is definitely going to be emphasized in the game, and customizing Jin looks super compelling and something I feel like a lot of people will get into. So different armor will give you different mechanical advantages in the game, not just how it looks aesthetically. Different armor is said to help accent and enhance your chosen playstyle, whether you want to be the samurai more often or the ghost more often. In the gear tab in the menu, players can equip charms that act as perks for Jin. There are more charms that can be attained by honoring Inari shrines as stated before, but one of the benefits of the charms offered was a defense charm that allowed Jin to slowly recover health while out of combat. So it looks like all the charms will be split up into different types of charms, which we will go over later on in the layer facts, but they do give him a boost or a certain ability, and honestly, slowly recover health while out of combat seems like a great one to have as well. Jin can also use technique points to learn new skills and upgrade existing ones. Another charm labeled Stealth Charm gave Jin the ability to attach poison vapors to wind chimes so that when picked up by an enemy, it kills them. Another type of charm called a Utility Charm allows for smoke bombs to restore 25% of Jin's health, which this one seems extremely useful. I would love to get that charm in game. But throughout the world, while you're finding charms, you can also pick up dye flowers. However, in the world, they are not called dye flowers, they are labeled just as flowers, but they do allow you to change the color of your armor. A specific number of flowers wasn't specified in order to change the color of your armor, but it seems like it may use a similar system as seen in Animal Crossing New Horizons, in which you trade a certain amount of customization points depending on the item to change its color. And so using that line of thinking, a certain amount of flowers may be required to change a specific part of your armor's color. Also, the color of the flower in game seemed to not matter as well, as when he was picking up a white flower or a blue flower, it still contributed to the same flower count, like just a capital F flower count, the pronoun flower. It appears that the shirt, cape, pants, bandana, hat, and armor were all customizable, except the gameplay didn't seem to indicate Jin's boots were customizable, but I don't see them leaving that element out of the question of customizing in the future and in the full game. So if you were in the Save Play stream, you already saw this aspect of the game. If you've been watching the gameplay throughout this entire breakdown of the gameplay, you can pretty much take away that Ghost of Tsushima is absolutely beautiful to look at, and thank goodness that photo mode is indeed in the game and confirmed. It also appears that photo mode is going to be ready at launch and will be in the game on day one, as opposed to an update later on after the game's release. The usual suspects such as field of view, color grading, depth of field, and more were shown to be aspects that you can manipulate and change from the photo you just captured in photo mode, as well as pan, tilt, roll, hide UI, manipulate distance, orbit, and more were all shown as available controls as well. In fact, number 69, nice, Jin's emotions can be edited in photo mode as well to show anger, and I'm sure happiness, sadness, whatever you want to do. But what really impressed me about photo mode is the ways that you can change the overall landscape and weather systems within the photo mode. So wind direction and wind speed can be changed, as well as adding particles that can be different types of particles, such as leaves, yellow leaves, bamboo leaves, and fireflies can also be selected under the particles selection, which is really cool. And not the fireflies in Last of Us, just regular schmegular fireflies. Not only that, but music tracks can be chosen to be played in photo mode to create little mini movies, little mini clips, as well as, of course, GIFs, which will be definitely used by Shuni Legend. Shuni Legend, I know you're shaking right now. Get hyped, because I cannot wait to see what you create via this photo mode. And it's really cool that they are giving the ability to add music tracks, because I really do think that a lot of people are going to make some really cool looking videos and really cool looking stuff. Twitter's going to be just filled with this stuff once the game releases. So if it's not apparent yet, I'll just tell you right now straight up. But Ghost of Tsushima seems to really be doubling down on allowing the player to play the game how they want to play, given the feudal Japan setting and era. So with that being said, a Japanese voice track is available to players before the game even begins if the player chooses so they can play the entire game with Japanese voice audio. However, English subtitles are also available when in Japanese voice track mode, so if you like to hear the Japanese dialect but still can't understand Japanese, you can still have the best of both worlds in understanding and having the game be formatted audio-wise to the way it is intended to be. Players can also choose to enable Samurai Cinema, allowing the game to be played in black and white with a film grain overlay. That way the game can appear to have a traditional samurai movie look while playing Ghost of Tsushima. The mode also seems to feature a lot more wind as well as opposed to the regular mode. And now guys, I gotta keep it honest here, I honestly only could funnel out 74 facts, so I did tack on this additive 75th fact to make that title look a lot cooler, because 75 is a lot, better number than 74, but the 75th fact for his video is that Ghost of Tsushima is out on July 17th, 2020, and I cannot wait for it. This day of play blew me away. I was very impressed by a lot of things they were showing here, including the customization of the game, as well as the different elements that are woven in to the feel and the era of the game. As opposed to having waypoints, you have the guiding winds and different stuff like that, and different animals lead you to different objectives and different, hot things in the world. It was absolutely tremendous. I cannot wait for this game. That bow and arrow looks really satisfying, as well as the combat, of course. I love that methodical, slow-paced combat that seems to be in the game. Overall, I was just blown away and very impressed. But let me know what you think in the comments below. What was one of your favorite facts or fact down below that we went over in this video, or maybe if there was something that I missed throughout the entire gameplay and you found yourself, definitely put it down there in the description and let me know your thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima down below. And while you're right now there, make sure to check out our description where you can find our Twitter, our Discord, as well as an anchor link to listen to long form content and podcast format. That, of course, being Road to Part 2, as well as Saves Lot Podcast as well. Like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as stay subscribed to PlayStation Stores to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.